Hi, I'm Chris Bishop and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Edge. We're out on the road again. This time we're in Centurion near Pretoria for the story of an entrepreneur by the name of DerekSmith. Now this man made a fortune out of selling hot dogs and coffee, and now he's helping hundreds of other entrepreneurs make a fortune too. So here we are with DerekSmith, the managing director of the business, and we're sitting here in one of the offshoots of the hot dog business, which is the coffee stop. So just tell us a little bit about yourself. What formed you as a person, an entrepreneur? What's your background?
I started off in the UK as a young boy. My parents were in the Royal Air Force. Then when my dad retired, I came to South Africa as an immigrant. He worked for Atlas Aircraft Corporation. I went to school in Kempton Park. Then I went to Wits University, got a BCom, and then worked for Cullinan Holdings in Olifantsfontein until the 80s. Then I went back to the UK to try my arm there, and that was quite a successful venture. I built an international trading operation in high voltage electricity. After about 7 years, we won the Queen's Export Achievement Award. I sold it and decided I missed South Africa too much and had to come back. Missed the sunshine, missed the girls.
And you came back to an entrepreneurial opportunity here?
We did. I started with a partner. I started another electrical corporation and it was bought out again, but then I was restrained for 2 years. And it sounds fabulous, but when you sit at home for more than 6 months, you can get pretty bored.
What were you doing in all that time?
Well, I went to lunch. And yeah, I know it was just relaxing, but eventually you realize, I was still relatively young and there was still lots to be done with life. But I was not allowed to get back in the field, which I knew. And that was a bit of a shock to my system because, it sounds cool, but if you haven't got a particular skill, because I was a management guy, an accountant by training, what do you do? And
well, from electrical goods to hot dogs, it must have come right out of the blue. What happened?
What actually happened is I looked around and I found this thing called franchising. And at that time, Craig McKenzie had just built Debonair's, and that was the current sort of trend, and everybody wanted to have a Debonair. So I bought 3 Debonairs and a Steers, and I started playing in the retail field as a franchisee. That was a lot of fun because, electrical contracts take about 2 years to complete, maybe 3 years before you put your money in the bank. But with retail sales, what you do today affects tomorrow. So a completely different type of scenario. Plus you're dealing with people. Really customers, and across the whole spectrum of society. And this was a lot of fun. But I did realize I'm a bit entrepreneurial, and a franchisee really needs somebody with more straight business skills and less flair, because if you keep changing the franchise, you defeat the purpose of franchising, which is to roll out a proven business system. So at the time I was thinking of changing, I came across Hot Dog Cafe, which had been developed by my current partner. That had a bit of a torrid time. It was not doing that well. The systems weren't that good because they didn't have much experience in the franchising or food basis. Now I'd picked up a lot from Debonair's and Steers, so I joined them and became managing director of Hot Dog Cafe.
And this had simple beginnings, that he imported a hot dog machine from New York to South Africa.
Yeah, what he did is he went to, the one brother went to New York, saw the hot dog stand, saw an integral part of American life it can be, and thought we can do that in South Africa. And they opened the first cart at Macro Centurion, and it did very well. It eventually became a diner, a full ingrown shop, and that did very, very well. And they thought they could just roll these things out. This was a money-making machine, but unfortunately, it isn't that easy. And the next few shops stumbled a bit because a new brand doesn't necessarily get prime sites or great opportunities. So when I joined it, it had just started franchising. There were problems, and it needed sorting out a bit.
Now I'm told there was an illegal strike, which actually inadvertently changed the course of this business.
Sometimes you stumble onto success. What actually happened, I spent the first year in operations just fixing the systems. And it was the time black empowerment was starting to come through. And it'd been crossing my mind that a hot dog cart might be a very simple business, but it's still a business. You still have to order stock, you have to look after your customers, you have to make a product, you have to be there every day. So it's got the essential disciplines of any business. And we had a lot of employees running our carts at that point in time, our hot dog carts, and there were a lot of industrial relation problems, and it was not very efficient. But then we had an illegal strike, which we tried to resolve, but we couldn't, and eventually everyone was dismissed. And that same day I was driving down to Menlyn Shopping Centre, and I looked at the chaps that work on the robots, the traders that are trying to sell you things. And these guys were happy, and they were working hard, and they were doing a good job. And I thought, how do I get that into my people? How do I do that? And my son was working on a project with them as well when he was at school. And he said, Dad, but it's simple, you know, they buy stock every morning and they have to sell it to eat. So the more stock they sell, the more they can buy, the more they can eat. And I thought, well, this is so simple. If we just put the carts down, give them people the site, sell them the stock, and they mark it up at a fixed price and sell it, that'll introduce some entrepreneurial spirit, some responsibility for the job, and some involvement. So I took everybody back on that basis, and suddenly everyone was working twice as hard, making twice as much money, and happy. And I suddenly realized, you know, when you empower people, they enjoy it, you know.
So in that small beginning, I mean, how many workers became sort of franchisees, and how many have you got now? How did it grow?
It was about 20 at that time. You know, it was relatively small, but it was the principle, I think. How did it grow? It was very interesting. At that point in time, I said that black empowerment, or the requirement to transfer business skills, was very critical to South Africa. We needed to rectify some of the things from the past. And Grant Patterson, who's now CEO of Massmart, was the commercial director, and he was given the task of finding programs which they felt that they could associate with. I met with Grant, and he loved what we were doing, and he decided to give us sites at the builders' warehouses, macros, games, on a rent-free basis. And the reason being they were subsidising the rental is that they wanted ownership. They want these young people to get ownership of whatever they had, their businesses. But they, of course, a lot of these previously disadvantaged youngsters had no money. So the only way we could do this was to lend them 100% of the purchase price. Now, no business that I know of can survive on 100% gearing. So we had to balance the business formula, and the way that Grant came up with, and Brian Laroni, who was actually very involved in the project, was to lower the rental to compensate. They also put a fund together with Omzavomba Youth Fund, which is now the NYDA. That fund was 4 million rand to finance these youngsters to be able to get their businesses. To date, we've had a 100% repayment record after 7 years. We've empowered 50-odd youngsters.
And not many businesses can say that in this present times. I can say that.
It's been an amazing success. And because it's ring-fenced, that fund has grown from 4 million to a loan value of nearly 10 million. So we're doing a good thing from a small base. It just keeps perpetuating.
So what do you think? A lot of people about the franchising business are cynical, and they say, oh, you know, if you've got a franchise, you're making money for someone else who's giving you the franchise. You don't get so many returns. What do you say?
I don't think that's... I mean, you may get imbalance with certain franchisors, but a long-term franchise can only survive if all partners are making money. The reputation, people talk. You know, I mean, I say to somebody, if you want to buy a franchise, go and talk to the franchisees. Franchisees will give you an honest opinion. Are they getting support? Have they got a profitable business? Is it a good place to invest your money? They'll tell you very quickly.
And now it's growing very fast. You've got actual government funds in your coffers now to train people and set up these things.
We did a lot of programs because of the nature of the franchisee we work with. They often need additional training and more support and help than maybe your traditional franchisee. So in the past we've done what we call cadet programs financed by, where the training's been financed by the DTI through CEDA and Omzavomba Youth Fund. And we put the guys on a 6 or 7 month training course, hand-holding exercise to ease them into business control, and then we fund them with capital. But recently we just closed one with the Jobs Fund, where they've given us 17 million rands worth of grant funds to support the rollout of, on a 3-year basis, of more cadets. And they're being partnered by the Public Investment Corporation and Mazazani, which is the old mutual, who finance the capital side. So it's a 35 million rand project in total to open 62 new outlets and train 384 young, previously disadvantaged individuals.
Now you say you got a 100% success record with this particular thing, with people paying back.
We had one failure once.
One failure once, well 99% success record. Well surely then, I mean it sounds too simple to be true in the fact that why isn't everyone doing it? I mean because that's one of the great things of Africa, creating jobs for people.
I think there is a big movement towards it. I think a lot of people are trying to get involved. The intensity of what we do is we don't make a lot of money for the amount of effort that we put in, if I can put it that way. It is a bit philanthropic in some ways, but it's entrepreneurial in another way. It's a different type of business model, but I'm seeing more and more people looking at unique and different ways to create jobs. There is an intensity, and in the Franchising Association, I think I mentioned I'm chairman of the Franchising Association, we're actually putting a massive project together to an application evolving from the first application to spread this type of thing across the industry and create sustainable jobs.
And lastly, very briefly, do you think it's the job of the entrepreneur to create jobs rather than the state in this day and
yes.
age?
Yeah, no, I think sustainable employment can only come through productivity. I mean, the state is effectively servicing the economy. That's what it's there for. It's employed by the economy. They pay taxes to keep them busy. So I think sustainable employment can only come through productivity, by producing something of substance. That's my feeling on the subject.
Thank you very much, DerekSmith, the Managing Director of this operation. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for on this episode of The Entrepreneurial Edge. From me, Chris Bishop, in Centurion, it's goodbye.